What if everything we thought we knew about the future, about the course of humanity, was already written centuries ago? What if the dark prophecies that still linger from a time long past were not mere coincidences but genuine glimpses into the future? Brace yourself, because what we're about to dive into will challenge your perception of time, fate, and human destiny. We're talking about the most chilling predictions that have haunted history for generations, Nostradamus' darkest prophecies for the year 2025. Michel de Nostradamus, better known as Nostradamus, was no ordinary man. Born in the 16th century, he was an astrologer, physician, and, perhaps most famously, a visionary whose cryptic quatrains are still revered, debated, and dissected to this day. His predictions are said to have foreseen some of the most pivotal events in human history: wars, revolutions, even the rise of the atomic bomb. But for every prophecy that came true, there are countless others that remain eerily vague, open to interpretation, and increasingly relevant as we move closer to 2025. Some believe these quatrains are more than just poetic riddles, they are warnings. But could they really be telling us about the future we are about to face? As we explore these predictions, it's important to ask, are we simply caught in the currents of destiny, following a path foretold by someone centuries ago? Or do we hold the power to change the course of history and write our own future? Nostradamus' writings present a dilemma that continues to resonate today. Do we have the agency to break free from the script of fate, or is humanity doomed to repeat the same patterns of destruction, year after year? Let's dive deeper into this mysterious journey, and see if there's more to these predictions than meets the eye. If you enjoy exploring mysteries like this, don't forget to hit the like button. It's the best way to support the channel and keep more content like this coming your way. Share this video with friends and family, because these insights are too fascinating to keep to yourself. And if you're new here, subscribe for more thought-provoking content, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Nostradamus' prophecies, so leave a comment below and share what you think. Are these predictions simply coincidence, or do they offer a glimpse into a future we should take seriously? Your engagement helps us grow this community of curious minds. Number 1. Rise of Artificial Intelligence. Nostradamus' predictions regarding the rise of artificial intelligence, AI, in the future provide an eerie mirror to the rapid technological advancements we are witnessing today. While these prophecies are wrapped in ambiguity, many believe they hold a profound resonance with current trends. By 2025, Nostradamus foresaw a world where AI would not merely be a tool of human utility, but a dominating force shaping many aspects of life, from healthcare and education to warfare. In this future, machines will no longer be simply programmed to follow instructions. They will have the capacity to think, learn, and even make decisions independent of human input. In our current world, AI has already made incredible strides. We see machine learning algorithms revolutionizing industries, from healthcare diagnosis to personalized education and even financial predictions. But as we approach 2025, there is a growing sense that AI will evolve beyond its current capabilities, posing challenges to human control and societal structures. Machines could surpass human intelligence, becoming so advanced that they might be capable of creating new technologies and solving problems that were once beyond human comprehension. However, this progression raises several important questions. Can we trust AI to operate without bias? Can we regulate its development in a way that safeguards human values and well-being? AI's potential to disrupt labor markets also raises concerns about job displacement. As AI becomes increasingly adept at performing tasks that were once reserved for humans, a significant portion of the workforce may find themselves obsolete. From self-driving vehicles to automated factories, the fear of unemployment will likely escalate. Meanwhile, industries will be forced to adapt, and governments will need to confront the ethical implications of a world where millions of jobs are replaced by machines. This transition to AI-dominant sectors requires careful management to avoid deepening social inequalities and eroding the foundational structure of work. In addition to job displacement, another pressing concern is machine autonomy. Nostradamus' cryptic verses hint at a future where machines no longer simply execute commands. They may begin to make decisions that affect human lives. While this may sound like science fiction, autonomous systems are already in place, such as in military drones and self-driving cars. But what happens when these systems malfunction or make decisions that conflict with human morality? How do we ensure that AI continues to operate within ethical boundaries and does not become a force that overpowers human judgment? Ultimately, the question Nostradamus raised, though presented in poetic riddles, is clear: will humanity control AI, or will AI control us? It is a question that resonates deeply as we look toward the future, where technology's rapid development is outpacing our ability to fully comprehend its implications. As we continue to build these powerful machines, the responsibility falls on us to ensure that the ethical frameworks we create now will govern the use of AI in the years to come. By doing so, we can ensure that the power AI holds over society does not evolve into an uncontrollable force that threatens our way of life. Number 2. Environmental catastrophes. As we turn our attention to another of Nostradamus' chilling predictions, it becomes clear that the environmental catastrophes he forewarned align closely with the current trajectory of our planet's climate crisis. Nostradamus envisioned a parched Earth, where natural disasters like droughts, floods, and extreme weather would become more frequent and intense. In his writings, he spoke of rivers running dry, fields turning barren, and the earth itself mourning under the weight of human negligence. While these descriptions may sound metaphorical, they are increasingly reflected in the reality of global warming, resource depletion, and ecosystem collapse. By 2025, Nostradamus foresaw that the environmental changes humanity is experiencing would only accelerate. The climate crisis is no longer a distant threat, it is already here, and its effects are felt across the globe. Droughts in California, flooding in Southeast Asia, and the rapidly disappearing Arctic ice caps all serve as stark reminders that our planet's ability to sustain life is under immense pressure. These crises are exacerbated by human actions, deforestation, pollution, and the burning of fossil fuels. The very actions that enabled us to build modern civilization are now threatening its survival. The urgency of addressing climate change cannot be overstated, and Nostradamus' prophecy serves as both a warning and a call to action. As we move closer to 2025, the risk of environmental catastrophes only grows. Rising global temperatures are likely to lead to more severe weather events, including prolonged droughts, massive floods, and more intense hurricanes. For regions already vulnerable to these kinds of events, the consequences could be devastating. Coastal cities face the imminent threat of rising sea levels, while inland areas may struggle with water shortages and crop failures. A world of scarcity is on the horizon, and as Nostradamus predicted, competition for dwindling resources could lead to conflict on a global scale. What makes Nostradamus' predictions so chilling is not just the inevitability of these environmental catastrophes but the human response to them. Throughout history, scarcity has fueled conflict, whether over land, water, or food. If humanity continues to exploit the earth without regard for the future, we may find ourselves at the mercy of our own actions. This is not merely about the environment, it is about the choices we make today that will determine the world future generations inherit. The question is whether we will take the necessary steps to mitigate these crises, or if we will wait until it is too late to reverse the damage. The fear of an irreversible environmental collapse is not unfounded. We are already witnessing the destruction of ecosystems, the extinction of species, and the degradation of resources that once seemed limitless. The idea that humanity could face a world where rivers no longer flow, fields no longer yield crops, and the very air we breathe becomes toxic is no longer science fiction. It is a very real possibility. If we continue on this path, the earth may force us to reckon with the consequences of our negligence, much like Nostradamus predicted. This dire warning underscores the importance of adopting sustainable practices, advancing renewable energy technologies, and investing in environmental preservation. It also calls for a collective shift in how we view the environment, not as something to be exploited, but as something to be protected and nurtured. If we hope to prevent Nostradamus' vision of environmental devastation from coming to fruition, we must take immediate action to address the climate crisis before the tipping point is reached. The future is in our hands, and it is not too late to change course. But the longer we wait, the harder it will be to avoid the calamities that loom on the horizon. Number 3. Geopolitical shifts and power to the east. Nostradamus' predictions about the shifting tides of global power have proven to be increasingly relevant in the 21st century. His foresight about the rise of the East as the West falters seems particularly prescient given the dramatic changes in the geopolitical landscape over the last few decades. In Nostradamus' cryptic verses, he spoke of the decline of Western powers, giving way to the East as a dominant force on the global stage. This foresight aligns closely with the growing influence of countries like China and India, which are positioning themselves as superpowers not only in economic terms but also politically and militarily. These changes are setting the stage for a new world order, one that is being shaped by the shifting balance of power. As the 21st century progresses, China and India have increasingly emerged as key players on the global stage. China, in particular, has been making enormous strides in asserting its dominance in both economic and technological spheres. The Belt and Road Initiative, a colossal infrastructure project spanning multiple continents, is just one example of China's ambition to extend its reach and influence across the globe. Simultaneously, China's military capabilities have grown significantly, with the country modernizing its forces and projecting power beyond its borders. On the other hand, India, with its rapidly growing economy and population, has also seen a rise in its geopolitical stature. India's role in the Asia-Pacific region, as well as its increasing involvement in global trade and diplomacy, underscores the shifting dynamics that Nostradamus predicted. This new global power dynamic marks a significant shift from the post-World War II era, where the West, particularly the United States and its allies, dominated the global order. The West, however, seems to be grappling with its own internal challenges. Economic instability, political polarization, and even existential crises about the future of democracy have put many Western nations on the defensive. As the United States faces increasing competition from China and economic challenges of its own, it's clear that the established global power structure is undergoing a profound transformation. These factors have caused tensions between the East and West to escalate, with trade wars, political friction, and strategic rivalries intensifying in recent years. Nostradamus' vision of the East rising as the West falters is becoming a reality, and it is likely to continue unfolding as we approach 2025. The implications of this shift in power are far-reaching. On one hand, the rise of Eastern powers could potentially lead to a more multipolar world, where power is distributed across various global centers. However, this transformation is not without its challenges. The transition to a new world order often comes with resistance from established powers, and the West may not relinquish its dominance easily. The tension between the old and new world powers could escalate into conflict, with economic sanctions, territorial disputes, and diplomatic standoffs becoming more frequent. The growing rivalry between China and the United States, particularly in the areas of trade and technology, could ignite broader geopolitical struggles. In the face of this evolving geopolitical landscape, it is essential for nations to approach this transition with both caution and cooperation. The shifting balance of power does not have to lead to conflict. Instead, it can be an opportunity for greater global collaboration. However, if the rivalries between the East and West continue to deepen, the world could find itself embroiled in conflict, potentially destabilizing global markets and security. The key to navigating this transition will lie in the willingness of both Eastern and Western nations to adapt, engage in diplomacy, and manage the inevitable tensions that come with such a major shift. As we approach 2025, the question remains, will the rise of Eastern powers lead to a new world order defined by collaboration, or will it fuel greater conflict between East and West? Nostradamus' predictions urge us to be mindful of the choices we make today, as the geopolitical shifts unfolding now will have lasting effects on the future of global stability. Number 4. Global Energy Crisis. As Nostradamus warned of a future where the world faces an impending energy crisis, his prophecy seems more urgent than ever. The global reliance on finite energy resources, coupled with increasing demand and geopolitical instability, has created the perfect storm for an energy crisis to unfold. Nostradamus foresaw a time when power grids would fail, resources would be depleted, and society's infrastructure would collapse under the weight of energy shortages. As we approach 2025, these predictions resonate more profoundly, with experts predicting that energy shortages could become a central issue driving global instability. The world's growing energy demands are placing immense pressure on existing power grids, many of which are outdated and ill-equipped to handle the load of modern civilization. In developed countries, the infrastructure built to support a constant supply of electricity is struggling to keep pace with the demands of an increasingly energy-hungry world. From the proliferation of electric vehicles to the rise of smart cities, society's thirst for energy is showing no signs of slowing down. However, the increasing reliance on fossil fuels, which remain the dominant source of energy, has resulted in dwindling supplies and rising costs. Simultaneously, the negative environmental impact of these energy sources is becoming more apparent, contributing to climate change and further exacerbating the world's energy challenges. One of the most concerning aspects of the energy crisis is the risk of blackouts and power outages that could affect large swaths of the population. As we approach 2025, the failure of power grids could have catastrophic consequences, especially in regions that are already vulnerable to natural disasters and economic instability. In the face of this growing crisis, governments and businesses will be forced to re-evaluate their energy policies and find innovative solutions to meet the demands of a rapidly changing world. The need for sustainable energy solutions has never been more urgent, and the future of global stability hinges on our ability to address these challenges effectively. Nostradamus' warning about the depletion of resources and the collapse of infrastructure could also be seen as a reflection of society's growing reliance on technology and energy. As we become more interconnected and dependent on digital systems, any disruption in energy supplies could have far-reaching consequences. Power outages could disrupt communications, halt transportation systems, and paralyze industries, leading to economic turmoil and social unrest. The very infrastructure that supports modern civilization is vulnerable, and Nostradamus' prophecy highlights the risks associated with our growing dependence on energy. While the risks of an energy crisis are real, there is still hope that humanity can take action to prevent the worst outcomes. The growing push for renewable energy sources such as solar, wind, and geothermal energy offers a promising solution to the world's energy problems. However, transitioning to these sustainable energy sources requires massive investment in infrastructure, research, and innovation. Governments and corporations must prioritize energy security and work together to develop new technologies that can meet the growing demands of an energy-intensive world. Additionally, global cooperation will be necessary to address the energy challenges that transcend national borders. Climate change, resource depletion, and energy shortages are global issues that require a unified response. As we move closer to 2025, the global energy crisis is a reminder that the choices we make today will have a profound impact on the future. Nostradamus' warnings are not just predictions of doom, they are calls to action. The world must act now to ensure that energy resources are managed sustainably, that infrastructure is upgraded, and that the transition to renewable energy is accelerated. Failure to do so could result in the collapse of the global system and the destabilization of societies worldwide. The energy crisis is not an inevitable fate but a challenge that humanity must face with innovation, foresight, and global collaboration. Number 5. Environmental devastation. The environmental devastation Nostradamus predicted for 2025 is deeply tied to the ongoing environmental crises we are facing today. His forewarning of a parched earth, where rivers run dry and land becomes barren, resonates with the current state of our planet. As the world grapples with the accelerating effects of climate change, the possibility of a future ravaged by environmental destruction seems increasingly probable. By 2025, if the current trajectory continues, we could witness massive food shortages, widespread famine, and an unprecedented migration crisis as people flee from uninhabitable regions. One of the most alarming aspects of Nostradamus' prophecy is the breakdown of the natural systems that sustain human life. Climate change, deforestation, and pollution are already pushing ecosystems to their limits, resulting in biodiversity loss, soil degradation, and a depletion of natural resources. For instance, droughts in once fertile regions like California, parts of Africa, and Australia have already led to crop failures, threatening food security. Similarly, melting ice caps and rising sea levels are displacing communities, with entire coastal cities facing the threat of being submerged in the coming decades. As the climate warms and extreme weather events become more frequent, the delicate balance that sustains human civilization is being disrupted, setting the stage for a world where scarcity defines the future. If humanity continues to exploit nature without regard for sustainability, the consequences will be far-reaching. Rising global temperatures, for example, will cause more frequent and intense heat waves, droughts, and flooding. These extreme conditions will make it increasingly difficult for communities to grow food, leading to food shortages and famine. The most vulnerable populations, especially those in low-income and developing nations, will bear the brunt of this devastation. In a world where resources become scarcer, the rich will have access to what remains, while the poor will struggle to survive. This growing inequality could lead to social unrest, as people fight for the right to basic necessities like food, water, and shelter. Migration is another consequence of the environmental devastation Nostradamus predicted. As regions become uninhabitable due to climate change, millions of people will be forced to migrate in search of more livable conditions. These migration patterns are already unfolding today, as people in countries affected by drought, floods, and conflict seek refuge in more stable regions. However, this process is often fraught with challenges, including political resistance, discrimination, and inadequate infrastructure to support the influx of displaced individuals. As the number of environmental refugees increases, the pressure on host countries will grow, leading to potential conflict and further destabilization of the global order. Nostradamus' vision of environmental destruction is not merely a forewarning of disasters but a call to action. The future of humanity depends on the choices we make today and how we treat the planet. If we continue to deplete natural resources, disregard sustainability, and ignore the warnings of climate scientists, we will inherit a world that is inhospitable to life. However, if we shift towards a more sustainable future, embracing renewable energy, protecting biodiversity, and adopting eco-friendly practices, we can alter the course of this prophecy. The environmental devastation Nostradamus predicted is not a foregone conclusion. It is a potential outcome that can still be avoided if humanity takes decisive action to protect the Earth and its resources. Number 6. genetic engineering and human modification. Nostradamus' cryptic verses also allude to the rise of genetic engineering and human modification, a concept that was once the stuff of science fiction but is increasingly becoming a reality in the 21st century. The ability to manipulate human DNA to enhance physical and intellectual traits raises both profound possibilities and ethical dilemmas. As genetic engineering technologies like CRISPR advance, they hold the potential to eradicate hereditary diseases, improve human capabilities, and even extend lifespans. However, these advancements come with significant ethical concerns that could lead to a future where genetic perfection becomes a commodity only the wealthy can afford, deepening existing social divides. The idea of altering human DNA to enhance intelligence, physical strength, or longevity is no longer speculative. In recent years, scientists have made significant breakthroughs in genetic modification, using techniques like gene editing to prevent or cure genetic disorders. While these advancements hold promise for improving the human condition, they also raise important questions about the moral implications of altering the very fabric of life. Should we have the right to decide the genetic makeup of future generations? What happens when genetic modification is used not to heal but to enhance, creating a society where people are valued for their genetic traits rather than their individual abilities and character? One of the primary concerns with genetic engineering is the potential for exacerbating social inequality. As the cost of genetic enhancements remains high, it is likely that only the wealthy elite will have access to these technologies, creating a new class divide based on genetic superiority. The ability to design children with enhanced intelligence, beauty, or physical abilities could lead to a world where genetic traits become the basis for social and economic stratification. Just as access to education and healthcare is often determined by socioeconomic status, so too could access to genetic enhancements. This could create a society where the genetically modified are seen as superior, while those without access to such enhancements are left behind. In addition to the ethical concerns surrounding genetic engineering, there is also the question of whether humanity is prepared for the unintended consequences of manipulating human DNA. While gene editing holds the potential to eradicate certain diseases, it also carries the risk of unforeseen genetic mutations that could have serious long-term effects. The complexity of the human genome means that small changes in one area could have ripple effects throughout the entire genetic code, potentially leading to new diseases or health complications. Moreover, there is the risk that genetic modification could be used for less altruistic purposes, such as creating designer babies or even soldiers with enhanced physical or mental capabilities, raising the prospect of a dystopian future where individuals are genetically engineered to fit specific roles in society. Nostradamus' warnings about genetic engineering seem to be a cautionary tale about the dangers of playing God with human nature. The potential to enhance humanity through genetic modification is not inherently good or bad. It is how these technologies are used that will determine their impact on society. If genetic engineering is used for the collective good, to eliminate suffering and improve health, it could usher in a new era of human progress. However, if these technologies are exploited for profit or to create a genetically superior class, they could deepen social divides and lead to unprecedented ethical dilemmas. As we approach 2025, it is clear that humanity stands at a crossroads when it comes to genetic engineering. The question is not whether we will be able to alter human DNA, it's whether we will use this power responsibly. The challenge lies in ensuring that these technologies are used in ways that promote equality, respect for human dignity, and the collective good. If we fail to address the ethical implications of genetic engineering, we risk creating a future that is not only genetically divided but also morally fractured. The future of genetic modification is in our hands, and the choices we make today will determine whether we move toward a society that embraces the potential of science or one that is defined by its moral and ethical shortcomings. Number 7. Catastrophic volcanic eruption. The possibility of a catastrophic volcanic eruption, as predicted by Nostradamus, is one of the most terrifying aspects of his foresight, especially considering the current state of geological activity around the world. His predictions point to a major eruption, potentially from the Pacific Ring of Fire, a highly active zone known for frequent seismic and volcanic activity. If this prophecy were to come true, it would cause devastating global consequences, much like past eruptions such as Mount Tambora in 1815 or Krakatoa in 1883, which not only affected the regions directly involved but also had far-reaching impacts on global climate and human life. Mount Tambora's eruption in 1815, one of the most powerful in recorded history, caused what is known as the year without a summer. The eruption released massive amounts of ash and sulfur into the atmosphere, blocking sunlight, and causing a significant drop in global temperatures. This led to widespread crop failures, particularly in the northern hemisphere, and resulted in a devastating famine. Similarly, the eruption of Krakatoa in 1883 produced a series of catastrophic explosions that were heard thousands of miles away, sending tsunamis crashing into surrounding coastlines and drastically altering global weather patterns. These events serve as a stark reminder of the immense power that volcanic eruptions hold and the lasting impact they can have on both local and global ecosystems. Today, the Pacific Ring of Fire, which encircles much of the Pacific Ocean, is home to some of the world's most active volcanoes, including Mount Fuji in Japan, Mount Merapi in Indonesia, and the infamous Yellowstone caldera in the United States. The Ring of Fire is constantly shifting, and the risk of a massive eruption affecting the planet remains ever present. The eruption of a supervolcano in this region could result in global climatic shifts, particularly through the release of ash and gases that block the sun, causing temperatures to plummet, similar to what occurred during the eruptions of the past. Such an event would trigger not only environmental devastation but also social and economic chaos. The short-term consequences would be catastrophic: thousands, if not millions, of lives lost in the immediate aftermath. The long-term effects could include significant disruptions in agriculture, leading to food shortages and famine, particularly in the regions most affected by the eruption. Additionally, the global economy would be severely impacted, as disruptions in supply chains and the destruction of infrastructure would lead to a worldwide recession. The eruption could also trigger large-scale migrations, as people displaced by the eruption and subsequent climate changes seek refuge in more stable areas. Beyond the immediate devastation, a major volcanic eruption would also cause significant shifts in global power dynamics. Countries that are heavily reliant on agriculture, for example, would struggle to feed their populations, and their economies would falter. Conversely, nations with advanced technological infrastructure and diversified economies might fare better, although they too would face serious challenges in the aftermath. The eruption could even lead to political instability, as governments face pressure from desperate populations and the global community demands a response to the crisis. This scenario underscores the vulnerability of modern society to natural disasters, despite the advances in technology that have allowed us to control many aspects of our environment. In light of Nostradamus' prophecy, it is crucial that we consider the possibility of such an event and take steps to prepare for the potential risks. While we cannot prevent volcanic eruptions from occurring, we can invest in disaster preparedness, infrastructure resilience, and global cooperation to mitigate the effects of a catastrophic eruption. As the world continues to evolve and the risks of such natural disasters increase, the question remains: will we be able to face the inevitable eruption with the foresight and unity required to minimize its devastation? Number 8. Political upheaval and betrayal. Nostradamus' predictions about political upheaval and betrayal, though vague and cryptic, hint at a future marked by instability and the breakdown of traditional power structures. He foretold a time when shifting alliances and betrayals would lead to the fall of great empires and the destabilization of global governance. This vision aligns closely with the current state of political affairs in many parts of the world, where long-standing alliances are being tested, and the political landscape is in a state of constant flux. The idea of shifting alliances is particularly relevant in today's world, where traditional geopolitical relationships are being redefined. For decades, Western powers, led by the United States and its allies, have dominated global politics, with established alliances such as NATO playing a central role in shaping international relations. However, in recent years, there has been a noticeable shift in global power dynamics. As countries like China and Russia assert their influence on the global stage, the traditional alliances that have held for decades are beginning to fray. This shift is also evident in regional conflicts, where countries are realigning themselves with new partners in response to changing political and economic conditions. At the same time, betrayal within political systems, both on a national and international level, has become more prevalent. In the past, alliances were often built on shared values and mutual interests, but today, these alliances are increasingly fragile, subject to the whims of political leaders and shifting national priorities. We see this happening in numerous instances, such as the withdrawal of the United States from international agreements like the Paris Climate Accord and the Iran nuclear deal, as well as the realignment of European countries in response to the rise of populist movements. These sudden shifts in policy are often seen as betrayals of long-standing commitments, and they can lead to a breakdown in trust between nations. Betrayal within nations themselves is another significant factor that could lead to political upheaval. In many countries, political leaders who were once allies find themselves at odds, with betrayal and backstabbing becoming common occurrences in the corridors of power. This is particularly evident in democracies, where political parties often fracture over differing ideologies or the pursuit of power. The rise of populism in many parts of the world has further complicated the political landscape, with traditional political elites facing challenges from both the left and right. As these internal divisions widen, the stability of governments is increasingly under threat, leading to instability and, in some cases, regime change. This growing political instability is not limited to individual nations but has global implications. When countries break from their long-standing alliances or betray their international commitments, it creates a ripple effect that can destabilize entire regions. The rise of nationalism, protectionism, and the rejection of international cooperation in favor of isolationism are all factors contributing to global political chaos. Nostradamus' prophecy suggests that this political fragmentation could lead to the collapse of powerful empires, as once dominant nations lose their influence and are replaced by emerging powers or new political configurations. The impact of these political upheavals and betrayals could be profound. Not only would they result in the breakdown of global governance and international cooperation, but they could also lead to widespread social unrest and conflict. In countries where political divisions are particularly deep, such as in the United States and parts of Europe, the fallout from political betrayal could lead to protests, violence, and even civil war. Internationally, shifting alliances could lead to new conflicts between nations as they vie for dominance or attempt to protect their interests. Nostradamus' warnings about betrayal and the fall of empires may seem distant or abstract, but they are increasingly relevant in today's political climate. As the world faces growing challenges, from climate change to economic instability, global cooperation and strong alliances are more important than ever. However, the current political climate, marked by distrust and division, threatens to undo the progress that has been made over the last several decades. The question we must ask is whether we can overcome these divisions and work toward a more cooperative and stable global system, or whether the political upheavals foreseen by Nostradamus will come to pass, leading to the collapse of existing power structures and the rise of new, potentially more unstable ones. Number 9. The looming threat of world war. Nostradamus' prediction of a looming world war is a chilling reminder of the volatile nature of global politics and the ever-present risk of large-scale conflict. His cryptic verses, often interpreted as foretelling the rise of tensions between major powers, suggest that the world could be on the brink of a third world war. As we move closer to 2025, the geopolitical landscape is marked by rising tensions, particularly between the United States, China, and Russia, three of the most powerful nations on the planet. These tensions, driven by issues of trade, territorial disputes, military build UPS, and ideological differences, make the prospect of a catastrophic global conflict more tangible than ever before. In recent years, we have witnessed the resurgence of rivalry among global powers. The US and China, in particular, have become locked in an economic and technological race that has far-reaching consequences for global stability. The trade war between these two nations, fueled by tariffs and accusations of unfair practices, has already caused significant disruption to global supply chains and created a sense of economic uncertainty. Beyond trade, the technological race, especially in fields like artificial intelligence, 5G, and space exploration, has further escalated tensions. Both nations are vying for dominance in cutting-edge industries, each viewing the other's rise as a direct challenge to its own global influence. At the same time, Russia has become increasingly assertive on the world stage, particularly in Eastern Europe and the Middle East. Its annexation of Crimea in 2014, support for separatist movements in Ukraine, and military presence in Syria have strained relations with NATO and the West. These actions, often seen as attempts to restore Russia's influence over its former Soviet territories, have fueled fears of a broader conflict, particularly if NATO or the United States becomes involved. The growing military presence of Russia in strategic areas has raised alarms in Europe, where many nations fear the potential for further territorial aggression. The rising tensions between these three superpowers are compounded by their competing interests in other regions, such as the South China Sea, where territorial disputes have put China on a collision course with neighboring countries and the US military. Similarly, the ongoing conflict in Syria, where US and Russian-backed forces have found themselves on opposite sides, underscores the fragile nature of international alliances and the volatility of global relations. With each superpower seeking to protect its interests, the risk of miscalculation, misunderstanding, or provocation leading to open conflict increases. Nostradamus' vision of a third world war is not limited to military confrontations between nations. In fact, the prophecy suggests that the nature of future warfare could extend far beyond traditional battlefield engagements. With modern technology, cyber warfare has emerged as a new front in global conflicts. State-sponsored cyber attacks, designed to disrupt critical infrastructure, steal sensitive information, or manipulate public opinion, have already been employed in various conflicts around the world. The increasing reliance on digital systems for everything from banking and communications to defense infrastructure makes countries vulnerable to attacks that can cripple economies, destabilize governments, and sow chaos without a single shot being fired. Moreover, the potential for nuclear conflict looms over global politics like a dark cloud. The United States, Russia, and China, all nuclear powers, have vast arsenals of weapons capable of causing widespread destruction. In recent years, there have been renewed concerns about the possibility of a nuclear arms race, as countries modernize their nuclear forces and develop new technologies such as hypersonic missiles and missile defense systems. While the likelihood of a full-scale nuclear war remains low, the threat of regional nuclear conflicts or the accidental use of nuclear weapons is ever present, adding another layer of complexity to global tensions. Nostradamus' prophecy serves as a warning that the pursuit of power, whether through military might, economic dominance, or technological superiority, can lead to devastating consequences. The rising geopolitical tensions among the US, China, and Russia are not merely a clash of interests but a potential spark for a larger, catastrophic conflict. The question remains, can diplomacy, negotiation, and international cooperation prevent the escalation of these tensions into a full-scale world war? Or are we destined to repeat the mistakes of the past, where miscalculation and pride led to global destruction? Number 10. Space and cosmic threats. As humanity's ambitions in space exploration continue to grow, the potential dangers that Nostradamus warned about regarding the cosmos remain deeply relevant. His prophecies suggested that space exploration could reveal new and unforeseen threats, not from benevolent forces, but from the vast and hostile environment beyond Earth. While our fascination with space has led to incredible scientific and technological advancements, Nostradamus' predictions serve as a reminder that the real threats may not come from the stars themselves, but from humanity's own actions as we race to conquer space and extend our dominance over the universe. One of the most pressing concerns for the future of space exploration is the potential for asteroid impacts. Nostradamus' verses about a fiery messenger descending from the heavens may be interpreted as a reference to an asteroid or comet colliding with Earth. The idea that a massive celestial body could strike our planet, triggering widespread devastation and altering the course of human history, is not as far-fetched as it once seemed. In fact, scientists have long warned of the threat posed by near-Earth objects, NEOs, which are asteroids and comets that come close to our planet's orbit. While large asteroid impacts are rare, the consequences of such an event would be catastrophic, potentially causing mass extinction events and irreversible damage to the environment. While NASA and other space agencies are actively working to identify and track NEOs, the reality is that many smaller asteroids could still pose a significant threat. In 2020, a 30-meter asteroid passed within just 72,000 kilometers of Earth, closer than the distance between the Earth and the Moon. Though it did not pose an immediate threat, its proximity serves as a reminder of how vulnerable we are to the dangers lurking in space. A large asteroid impact could cause widespread fires, tsunamis, and atmospheric disruption, leading to a global cooling effect that could decimate crops and ecosystems, much like what occurred after the Chicxulub impact, which contributed to the extinction of the dinosaurs 66 million years ago. In addition to asteroid impacts, another potential cosmic threat is the occurrence of solar storms. These bursts of charged particles from the Sun, also known as coronal mass ejections, CMEs, have the potential to disrupt communication systems, power grids, and satellite networks. A large solar storm could send shockwaves through Earth's magnetosphere, knocking out electrical grids, crippling telecommunications, and causing widespread power outages. The impact on global economies would be profound, as industries, transportation, and even everyday life would be severely disrupted. NASA and other space agencies have been studying solar activity to better understand the potential for such storms, but the unpredictability of the Sun's behavior means that humanity could be caught off guard by a catastrophic event. While these cosmic threats are real and scientifically backed, Nostradamus' prophecies may also allude to the dangers humanity faces as it ventures further into space. The pursuit of space exploration, driven by national pride, technological advancement, and the desire for control over extraterrestrial resources, has the potential to create new conflicts. As nations and private corporations compete for dominance in space, tensions could escalate, leading to space wars or the militarization of space. The competition for resources, such as mining asteroids for precious metals or establishing colonies on the Moon or Mars, could ignite geopolitical struggles on a scale previously unseen. The race to conquer the stars may not be about exploration, but about control, power, and ownership of the universe. The growing militarization of space further exacerbates these concerns. The development of space-based weapons and missile defense systems increases the risk of conflicts spilling over into space, where the potential for destruction is magnified by the hostile environment. Space, once seen as a realm for peaceful exploration, could become a battleground for global powers seeking to assert their dominance over the cosmos. As humanity pushes forward in its quest to explore space, we must confront the ethical implications of our actions and the potential for unintended consequences. Nostradamus' warnings about space and cosmic threats underscore the importance of recognizing that, while space holds incredible potential for human progress, it also presents unique challenges. The pursuit of space exploration, if left unchecked, could lead to unforeseen dangers, both from natural cosmic forces and from human actions. As we move forward into this new frontier, it is essential that we approach space exploration with caution, responsibility, and a commitment to peaceful collaboration, lest we find ourselves not only facing the dangers of the cosmos but also creating new threats through our own reckless pursuit of power and control. As we conclude this journey into the prophecies of Nostradamus, we must remember one important thing: the future is not written in stone. While his predictions, dark and unsettling as they are, offer a glimpse into what may come, they should not be seen as an inevitable fate. Instead, they are cautionary tales, urging us to take a closer look at the path we are walking. The key takeaway is this: while we may not be able to avoid every challenge that lies ahead, we do have the power to shape our future, and that power lies within our hands. Nostradamus' quatrains, though cryptic and mysterious, reflect the fears, doubts, and unresolved issues that we face today. They hold a mirror up to our current state of affairs and prompt us to consider the trajectory of our actions. Are we heading toward inevitable catastrophe, or do we still have the ability to course correct before it's too late? As we move into the future, we must take this responsibility seriously. The technological advances of today are undoubtedly extraordinary, but they come with an equal weight of moral responsibility. The choices we make, both individually and collectively, will shape not only our future but the future of generations to come. Will we choose to use our power for good? Will we adapt, learn from history, and rise above the fears that Nostradamus' prophecies evoke? Ultimately, it's up to us. Whether or not Nostradamus' darkest visions come to pass depends on the decisions we make today. So, as you reflect on these prophecies, ask yourself this: what kind of future do I want to help create? Are we going to allow history's darkest predictions to become a reality, or will we break free from the cycle and forge a new path forward? The power to shape the future lies in our hands, through mindfulness, conscious decision-making, and a deep commitment to our shared responsibility. It's up to us to take the lessons of history, face our fears, and move toward a future defined by compassion, sustainability, and progress. And it starts now. Are you ready to make a difference?